Hi, I'm Shayna Galen, and this is Luna. And today we're going to be talking about the Regency era. And in particular, I'll be talking about the Prince Regent. And of course, that's the reason that we have the name, the Regency. A regent is a person who is appointed to administer a state because the monarch is either incapacitated or absent or a minor. So George the Fourth, he later became George the Fourth. At that time, he was just the Prince of Wales. He became the regent in 1811, and then he became king, the George the Fourth, the king, when his father George the Third died in 1820. So during the regency, he had the full powers of a monarch, and his father was mentally ill at the time, and he had been having some problems off and on for years. There's a great movie that was made about this called The Madness of King George, and I'm sure it's like 20, 25 years old now, but it was really a great movie, and I recommend it highly. And that movie was one of the first suggestions that maybe the king's problem was that he had porphyria, which is a disease you can read more about if you're interested. So nobody's really sure what was wrong with him, but he was definitely not able to rule at that time. So the Prince Regent, who was actually kind of nicknamed Prinny at the time, had a very extravagant lifestyle. And his parents were very frugal and very conservative, and he kind of went the other way, as many children do. The prime ministers at the time, the prime minister and the other ministers at the time considered him very selfish, very unreliable. His main concerns were pretty much fashion and leisure. One of his extravagances was Carlton House, which was where he lived. And Carlton House is not standing any longer. You can visit the place where it was. It's right by Regent's Park, but it's not standing any longer. And this is where he lived. And of course, he spent very lavishly and spent a lot of money to appoint Carlton House in the way he wanted. He redecorated it, and he had, each room was furnished in a different manner, and so on. And it sounds like it was pretty amazing to see. So in my most recent book, Third Son's a Charm, and I would show you the cover, but I have this cat I'm holding, so I can't. There's a scene where Laurie and Ewan go to a ball at Carlton House. And I've written scenes in Carlton House before, but always when I write a scene, I always go back and do the research again. And so I did do some research again. So I think this scene's a really great way for me to describe Carlton House for you, and you can kind of get a sense of what it looked like. So let me pull that up, and I will read it for you. And this is on page 93 if you have the book. Carlton House was hot and stuffy. The regent never did understand the value of moderation, and his guest list, like his taste in everything else, ran to excess. Laurie would have been the first to admit that excess could be quite impressive. The regent had certainly aimed to impress tonight. After entering through the portico of massive Corinthian columns, one passed an army of footmen lining the path to the foyer. Unlike most London residences, one did not enter Carlton House on the ground floor. The foyer was located on the main floor, and from there one was led, or pushed, depending on the size of the crowd, into a two-story entrance hall, lit from the top by gleaming gold chandeliers so heavily embellished one feared they might collapse under the weight of their beauty. The chandeliers shone down on more columns, these constructed of yellow marble. Laurie thought the columns in the entrance hall were Ionic, but they might have been Doric. She could never remember the difference and could only identify Corinthian columns because they had the ornamentation at the top. Entering in this manner allowed the visitor to be appropriately awed by the main staircase, which sloped gently on either side and was quite wide enough to allow 3 people to pass undisturbed. Laurie knew from past visits the throne room, music room, drawing room, and dining rooms were on this floor. Each was more impressive than the last, her favorite being the golden drawing room. Never had she seen so much gilded paneling, molding, or ornamentation. Even the columns in the drawing room, Corinthian again, were gold. All of the furnishings were draped in deep crimson, and the combination of the gold and crimson gave the room the feel of cheap opulence, rather the way a brothel might look, Laurie surmised, never having been to a brothel. The ball tonight was to be held in the conservatory, which was in the west end of the property. Lori lifted the train of her ball gown and descended the staircase as gracefully as possible, trailing her father and mother and one step behind her brother, who she really thought should have taken her arm. Mr. Mosten followed, hands clasped behind his back, looking neither up nor down, nor left or right. If he was impressed by the show of marble, crystal, and gilded glory, he did not show it. After the heat of the house itself, Lori was relieved to step into the cool night air before entering the Gothic conservatory. It had been constructed of cast iron, and from the outside reminded her of an old church, all spires and soaring peaks. Inside, one could not help but marvel at the walls of translucent colored glass, which threw a rainbow of color on the black and white marble floors. The room was as long as it had been rumored to be. Lori had seen pictures of the structure, since it had been the site of a much-discussed fete 5 years before, where over 2,000 people had dined at a table with a stream of water running its length. The room was much grander than the cartoons made it seem, with more of the ornate gilded columns so prevalent throughout the house, and lovely gold and scarlet chandeliers hanging in the archways between the columns. And I'll just stop there. So that's a little bit of a description of Carlton House for you and the conservatory where they attended this fall, and of course more happens after that. So it's Black Friday, and I don't shop for Black Friday, so I thought I would, if you're the same as me, and maybe you are staying home today, then I thought I would offer a little giveaway, and this is a 2-for-1, so I'll give one to you and one to a friend. So there you go. You've already got one gift taken care of. You can cross it off your list. And I thought I would give away a copy of Third Sense of Charm, so you can read this scene yourself, and I will sign both copies, so you have a signed book to give to your friend or parent or whoever it is that you think might be interested in that. And I guess, I don't know, I can't think of a question for you to show me that you watched the video. I guess tell me the name of the Prince Regent's residence, the one that I was reading about and talking about. I'll give you a hint, Carlton House. So just put that in the comments, and I will randomly pick somebody to win 2 copies of Third Sense of Charm. And I was thinking print copies, but if you prefer digital, that's fine too. So have a great weekend, and I'll see you next time.